Good afternoon, everybody. It's August 13th, 2025 afternoon. Hope everybody's doing well. It was overcast and it rained for a little bit, but now, of course, the sun is out and it's hot and muggy and yucky. So I'm in here recording this for you guys. I was going to do it yesterday, and then I just got interrupted so many times. So anyway, back in May, I was contacted by a YouTube creator, and I believe a targeted person, and he gave me a copy of one of his videos. It was part one of part two, and I have it up on my channel. It's called Narcissistic Mimicry and Dog Whistling. Back from 2019, it was part one of part two. So I uploaded it then, and it's just over 2 hours, 2.5 hours. So it's quite long, and you really have to watch it to understand the complexities of narcissistic, psychopathic mimicry. And he says, and dog whistling. I'd never heard of that terminology before. So this was with permission from Tristan from Froggy Frog 9000. And he asks the viewers, please watch all the video and then answer this question. Can you see that I am being mimicked? And this is important. This is very important. And most of his channel, unfortunately, is members only. So you won't be able to view a lot of his videos, which I'm sure are exceptional. This particular one, he gave to me with permission to upload. He said that he's being shadow banned. And my comment to him was, I wonder how many people watching it get what you are demonstrating. Yes, it is mimicry. It's more sinister than that. It's creepy and alarming. The spirals are hypnotic and implies being placed under hypnosis or trance. And that woman's very low voice is reminiscent of subconscious programming, similar to what some refer to as V2K, only in that she's not mechanical. It also appears that he may be of the same hive mind as some of the people mimicking him. It is all psychological. So I was thinking about this recently because we haven't touched upon the psychological abuse tactic of mimicry. Mimicry can be a form of mockery. It can be when it comes to psychopaths and narcissists, because they don't know who they are. They target people that they want to emulate and be like and torment, because those individuals have something that the narcissist psychopath does not possess. So that's why they mimic. That's why they copy. That's why they watch your every move. That's why they stalk you, and that's what a lot of gang stalking is about. The intel agencies, many of which are psychopaths, narcissists, those are the ones that are training your neighbors. I don't know if they're getting any kind of training, but to perform these atrocities against you. So I went onto Reddit. And I wanted to see if there was any kind of information of people discussing mimicry. And one person said, now this is 8 years ago, copying, mimicking is a really common thing I used to see all the time. They are obsessed with attempting to impersonate people or imply people are impersonating. Another thing I noticed that at pivotal times they attempt to almost mimic or impersonate with several people perpetrating and behaving strangely. And now I have experienced this in the comments section of two videos in particular, and they were both the videos I posted on Andrew Boswell. And I am getting inundated with comments that are repetitious, very much of the same quality, all by bots, mostly by bots. When I have time, I am blocking these people. I don't need them on the channel, just posting the same comments over and over again. So anyway, this might be some sort of interpretive dance or just an attempt at defamation through impersonation. Most of the time, they won't do anything that stands out as unusual behavior except towards you. Almost everyone who experiences these things talks about having a negative effect on them, and this may be what their goal is. So now some of the possible motives of copying and mimicking are defamation through false association. You know, people claiming that they're associated with you, especially in the targeting community. People see someone mimicking in an extremely exaggerated way and then falsely think that it's about you. And then, of course, there's the gaslighting. You know, they'll gaslight you and say, oh, no, I'm not doing that. Communicating to others what you do in private. And this happens a lot with a lot of targeted people. I mean, I experienced this back in New Jersey. I was out to lunch one day with a targeted woman. We met up for lunch at a diner. She goes to the ladies' room, and I'm there by myself. And I'm telling you, these are older women. I'm going to say they were in their 70s having lunch together. And they turn to me, and they're talking about how their backs were hurting them. And it's like, I don't know these women from a hole in the wall. And we had a conversation about that. It was bizarre, right? So, and this is what happens with gang stalking. You know, they give these skits to people. It doesn't matter how old or young they are. And then some of the possible motives of copying and mimicking is the dissolution of your individuality. Because then if 10 people are doing what you are, maybe some are even doing it better than you did. They are dissolving your individuality. You know, everybody has something about their personality, their voice, the way they appear, the way they create their videos that is individualistic to them. It's sort of like, I don't have a GoPro. I'm just taking photos with my camera. And when I'm inside and I'm reading on my screen, or I'll usually have an image in front of me. So this is a little visualization, positive visualization. I inhale peace and exhale tension. So I usually have some image here because I like to collect these little ACEOs. They're hand painted, and I love cats, so most of them are about cats or roosters or chickens or whatever. So anyway, that's sort of like my signature on YouTube. And other people have other signatures on YouTube. They blend things together. They may have an introduction, a musical introduction, or extra, you know, at the end screen. So everybody has their own little method of creating videos on YouTube, getting the message out there and stuff. So, but then there are other individuals out there that don't have that individuality. So they study other people's channels. And if they are paid provocateur, for instance, if they're paid, then they're going to study you, whether it's in your community, your local community, stalking you, whether it's a fusion center operative, whether it's a quote-unquote gang stalker, a cyber stalker, whatever it is, they're going to study you and then mock whatever it is that you're doing. You know, and then, of course, there is the confabulation of your words. They'll take part of what you're saying and twist it to their advantage, saying that you said something that you actually didn't say. But, of course, when they're repeating it on their channel, nobody has the frame of reference of your channel, let's say, the person that they're mocking, in front of them to see them side by side. So that's why after I upload this video, in the description section, I will post a link to Tristan's video called Narcissistic Mimicry and Dog Whistling. It's on my channel. It was from 2019. It is exceptional. It's sort of like a little documentary, and he's calling it a documentary. And he said he's being shadow banned and stuff. You know, obviously he's a targeted person, and he took a lot of time to create this video. So I highly recommend, after you hear the differences between narcissistic mimicry, why it's done, and then you have the opportunity to listen to this and watch, more importantly, watch this video on mimicry, you're going to see things that you never saw before, and you will carry that over into many of your experiences outside of YouTube and on YouTube. So, of course, I had to go to ChatGPT then and say, hey, Chat, tell me about mimicry. Is it harmful? Is it harmless? Mimicry is imitating another person's speech, gestures, expressions, tone, or behaviors. It can be positive, neutral, or harmful depending on the intent, context, and frequency. 1. Why people mimic others, both positively and neutral reasons. There's social bonding. Naturally, people will mirror posture, tone, expressions to build rapport. Sometimes when you're in front of somebody, and you're talking to them, in order to understand what it is that they're saying, after somebody is mentioning something to you, you may actually turn to them and repeat to validate and confirm what it is that you just heard to that person, to see if you heard exactly what it is that they're relaying to you. Then, of course, there's learning. Children mimic to develop speech, behaviors, and skills. Empathy. Mirroring emotions to show understanding and connection. Then there's the cultural adaptation, adjusting language and mannerisms to integrate into a group. So then there's mimicry as a negative behavior. A mimicry, mockery, is exaggerated imitation to make somebody look foolish. There's harassment, repeated mimicry to provoke or humiliate. Repeated mimicry to provoke or humiliate. Intimidation, repeating words in a dismissive or hostile tone. And then, of course, there's the bullies, the cyber bullies, the bullies in person, just bully, bully, bully. It's a bully tactic. It's used to isolate or ridicule, like in schools, in the workplace, in communities, or on social media. Number 3, mimicry is used as psychological abuse. In abusive contexts, mimicry can be part of gaslighting, making somebody doubt themselves, undermine a person socially by ridiculing their habits in public, be used in group harassment or mobbing scenarios where a whole bunch of people will start to imitate like the target, the victim. And you've probably seen this many times, like in a school setting where a bunch of bullies will get on, like, you know, the victim's case. Usually it's the very intelligent kid who dresses a little dorky in school, right? And they tend to pick on that person. So they'll imitate and mock that person because actually they're very jealous, because usually it's that person that gets the straight A's in school and is really a good person, helpful to other people. So number 4 are some key indicators that it's a malicious mimicry. Frequent and targeted at the same person. A public display meant to humiliate. That is the intention, that it was meant to humiliate. Exaggerated flaws or vulnerabilities accompanied by, and of course on social media, there you can't see this, which is why social media can be so harmful in many ways, because you're not actually seeing a person face to face to validate or confirm what it is that they're saying as being positive or negative. So it can be accompanied by smirks, stares, or waiting for reaction. And everybody knows the narcissist, they've got the narcissist smirk. There's undeniable. The narcissist will smirk when they think they're getting over on you. like the little corner of their mouth will turn up, and they'll get a little twinkle in their eyes. Well, it's not really a twinkle. It's nasty. It escalates when you ask for it to stop. It may be paired with other harassment methods. Now, number 5 would be, what are the psychological impacts of abusive mimicry? And we're not talking about the kind of mimicry like a child imitates or mimics what a parent is doing to learn. The psychological impact of abusive mimicry, meaning a mockery, harming another individual deliberately. Well, this heightens self-consciousness and anxiety, lowered self-esteem, hypervigilance, and social withdrawal. So I have a mimicry, harmless versus harmful. Harmless mimicry is natural. It's an unconscious mirroring during conversation. It's used to build rapport and show empathy. It's temporary. It's context specific. It may be in a cultural adaptation situation where you're wanting to fit in. Let's say you're traveling to another country and you want to fit into the culture, and you may copy somebody's gestures. Maybe it's bowing in certain cultures and you want to bow. I mean, although that's not something that we generally do in our culture here in the United States. But if you want to fit in other cultures, it may be important for you to bow or curtsy or whatever it is. It's generally, harmless mimicry is generally based on positive social intent. So harmful mimicry is intentional, exaggerated imitation to mock or provoke. It's deliberately used to embarrass, ridicule, or undermine. It's persistent, targeted towards one person. And what's been happening in our community is that there is an individual that has been targeting 2 or 3 or 4 individuals, including my own self. It's done in public or with an audience to cause humiliation. Again, remember, this is a repetition. It's accompanied by other forms of harassment or intimidation. So now let me go back to the Reddit post, because there was something else in the Reddit post that was really interesting. One person writes, personal obsessions can be part of why a person is stalked or mimicked. This person says, I find it hard to understand why the motive behind neighbors. Another person says, well, it's definitely my neighbors. They're using surveillance to spy on me. And let's see, there was something here where this person is trying to explain what the mockery is in gang stalking. And gang stalker creates a brand new account, then makes a post similar to mine days after mine. And it's designed to intentionally provoke reactions in targets. So it's a victim report. It says, I'm a TI. My experience has been that individuals involved in the harassment will provoke you by mimicking you in public to record your reaction. And in my case, I have been overwhelmed publicly to create a situation where I react, then am recorded through audio or filmed. Those recordings are then put out of context, only focusing on the reaction, which is obviously out of context because everybody has a reaction to a stimulus. That's the way it works. Generally people are not reacting to nothing. They're reacting to something, whether it's something that they're hearing, something they're viewing, online or offline. These situations are so that others can witness your irrational response, so that any claim you make is discredited, or if they push you enough to snap, they have proof that it was your instability. This individual says, in my case, I have proven beyond a doubt my harassment is real. This is definitely connected to a government source. So now another person says, I think you're a gang stalker who's posting BS on Reddit just to get attention. 5 votes up and no replies. Another person writes, the purpose of all public stunts or individualized harassment is to find a weak point, or your situations in life is to distort, exploit. It's intended to provoke a reaction. If you understand that, you can follow any TI to see what is occurring around them. The reaction of the TI is what they look for, so they know when to increase or decrease a harassment technique. Another person says, yes, mimicking can be a form of harassment. So now another person says, I have a photo and a license plate that I cannot show publicly of a man who is directly involved in this. I have filmed 2 employees doing something to me that's also being done to me in public, but I can't legally put it on here. There are several types of evidence I have which are not able to be used unless I have a legal representation. Of course, there's some stuff that you just can't put up on the internet. You really shouldn't. So this comment was about provoking reactions in targets. And let's see, there was something else here. There was another URL that I wanted to click on here. If I could find, here it is. Oh, okay. They made this comment private. Never mind. So anyway, getting back to mimicry. Mimicry is a form of mockery. It can be harmless or harmful. Mimicry imitates other person's speech, gestures, expressions, tone, or behaviors. It can be positive, neutral, or harmful depending on the intent, the context, and frequency. And it's like that with all the stalking techniques that we experience. They generally engage in repetition. And it's usually more than once or twice. It's usually at least 3 times that they'll perform the same negative behaviors, because they want to form your, film or record your reactions. So sometimes you should not react. Sometimes you should remain quiet and then see what it does. With narcissists, they totally freak out when you ignore them. They totally freak out. They go berserko online. Like when I had that cyber stalker, the Gorilla Boy. That's what I named him, the Gorilla Boy. Everybody knows who he is. But this creature stalked me for a year. And eventually I just ignored him, like you do with bad behavior. Why would you engage bad behavior? And he was creating videos about me and slandering me, but not just me. He was doing it to other people also. And everybody knew who he was, and he had all his flying monkeys around him and stuff. And then when his contract ended, it stopped. So as targeted people, you have to understand that the people that are harassing us are under a contract. They're being paid to do a job to, stir the shit in the community. And they may be paid by fusion centers, by your local perpetrators, by other YouTube creators who don't want you to gain traction, or other people in the targeting community who have a vested interest. So leave a comment down below. Have you experienced mimicry or mockery either with your neighbors, online, in your comments section? People have leaving like same kind of bizarre comments repeatedly. And then, if you have time, again, this video is 2 hours and 40 minutes long. And after I watched it, I remember having to watch it again. Because some of it was so, it was psychologically abusive. But you really had to sit back when you had time to watch it and look at the imagery and then compare it, because only this man knows what's going on in his life, right? And even though we have relationships online and stuff, nobody knows exactly what's going on in every targeted person's life. We don't talk about everything. But obviously the people that are stalking us and following us and harassing us, they're the ones that are monitoring everything that's going on in our lives, and they will put it out there, whether it's like through my eBay account, you know, where people are stalking my listings, whether it's people damaging my food deliveries, whether it's my neighbors and their friends harassing workers here to get them to not work here, you know, the local perpetrators. And then, of course, there are people in the targeting community that are disgusting. And even though I've been targeted before, I'm going to say probably around 2009, maybe even earlier, I only learned that I was targeted around 2017. I had no idea what was happening, because I knew what stalking was. I had a guy stalking me who I had dated a few times, and he was stalking me, and I knew what individual stalking was like. I knew the characteristics of it and stuff, and plus, since I had to fight this guy in court, you know, I had to perform a lot of research on his disgusting behavior. But when I realized that groups of people were stalking and harassing me, well, that was a new phenomenon. I had no idea what that was. So just like you guys, just like everybody else, I would type it in online, like many people harassing, many people stalking, many people commenting on me in public, and you know what comes up? Gang stalking targeted individuals. So there was this huge gap of time, at a minimum of between 2011 and 12 to 2017, where I was clueless. I had no idea what was going on, other than that my house had been broken into, my personal belongings were being deteriorated, my healthy cats were getting sick and dying of bizarre illnesses that came out of nowhere. My clothes would suddenly turn up damaged, like a brand new coat suddenly had its zipper torn out. And of course your mind, you don't think that somebody's coming into your house. I had a house alarm, I had cameras, that if people were coming into my house, for sure my alarms would go off. For sure I'd be notified. I had no idea, just like you. Many years have gone by. And then, of course, I came into, quote unquote, the targeting community. And most of the time, newly informed targeted people, newly aware targeted people, gravitate towards the larger groups, whose names I will not mention, because they like to threaten people. Even other targeted people, they like to do that. But the larger groups who have a greater internet presence, a website, financial means, etc., they actually take it upon themselves to attempt to silence the real targeted people in the community, because there are a lot of fakes. A lot of fakes. And these, I'm going to say, these social media people in the targeting community, they know who the real targeted people are and who the fakes are. I can't tell you how or why they know that, because I'll get myself in trouble. But you could use your imagination as to how they would know the real targeted people versus the fake ones, versus the stalkers, versus the flying monkeys of the narcissists that have created these programs. So anyway, that's my little rant for today on mimicry, mockery, why people mimic others, a mimicry as a negative behavior. Mimicry is a psychological abuse, and the key indicators is that it is malicious mimicry, and the psychological impact of abusive mimicry. And again, in the description section, I will post a link to the 2-hour and 40-minute video, Narcissistic Mimicry and Dog Whistling. It's fascinating if you have time. It's not the kind of video that you can listen to in the background. You actually have to visually sit down and watch it. So I hope everybody's doing well on this, what's today, Wednesday, August the 13th. And leave a comment down below. Remember to like, comment, share if you're inclined to do so. And if you want to support the channel, you can always donate a cup of coffee through PayPal, through Cash App to Freya's Cat Rescue, our nonprofit cat rescue. Donate a can of cat food, a bag of cat food through Chewy.com. It's very much appreciated. I'm going to sign off for now.